Hi there guys, welcome back, and today I'll be continuing the next part for what if King Cold came to Namek instead of the Ginyu Force. Now last time we left off, we had the group send King Cold to the other side of space and had begun training to defend Namek for whenever King Cold does return. We're going to join back with the group 2 weeks into the future, and I'm going to run over everyone's power level real quickly. First off, we have Krillin. Now I've given Krillin a 27.5 times increase, with his power level originally being 22,000, he has now got a power level of 605,000. Now I know that sounds like a lot, and this is probably the one that might cause a lot of arguments. However, Krillin has had a lot of training. You've got to remember, Goku, under the span of a week, got from a power level of 8,000 to 90,000, which is a massive increase. I wanted to make sure that Krillin definitely got a good enough increase. However, he's not jumped out of any mental tracks. He's still within reason a good power. Now, the reason I've given him it is he's trained in the chamber, he's trained with people who are stronger than him, he's had multiple training partners, it's all been in Krillin's favour, and that is why Krillin is as strong as he is. Next is Gohan, who I've given a 30 times increase in power, meaning he went from a power level of 26,000 to 780,000. Now, pretty much everything I said about Krillin applies here. However, he is half Saiyan, so he's getting some Zenkais from training, and also he has a massive potential. So he overtook Krillin fairly fast, and he started from a higher point. So it just makes sense to put Gohan here. It's probably lowballing what Gohan could possibly be. However, I believe this is the most realistic course. So Nail's an interesting character to do because, unlike everyone else, Krillin has experience with training, so he's probably a bit more used to it. And then he doesn't get Zenkais like the other three do. So his growth is mostly because he was the most determined to get stronger. However, even though he was determined, he didn't, you know, jump massive leaps and bounds. However, I believe what I've given him is quite fair. He's gone from a power level of 42,000 to 1.2 mil, which is a 29.5 times increase. Now, I've given him this because he did the most probably hardcore training with Vegeta, who he wanted to keep in check so he didn't go off destroying other Namekian villages or leaving the planet. So I think the power level I've given Nail is reasonable. It's just below Vegeta, but he's just third strongest there. Vegeta, on the other hand, is nothing like Nail. He isn't determined in the slightest to defend the planet. All he wants to do is save his own life, and also hopefully overtake Kakarot, who overtook him by leaps and bounds. So he's been training in a much higher gravity than pretty much everyone else other than Nail, and also has been, trying to get strong enough to defend his own life. Now, I've given him a 42.5 times increase, which is quite a good increase. He's gone from a power level of 30,000 to 1.3 mil. So he's actually only just stronger than Nail. So it would probably be a bit more of a tactical fight if those two ever fought. But I think I've given him the edge because he gets Zenkais. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, that makes Saiyans very strong, very fast. But that is where I've placed Vegeta. Goku is the person in the group who has seen the smallest growth. Now, he had to try and help Krillin and Gohan catch up. He probably got some Zenkais from training with them, however, he's training in much lower gravity. Because Goku was training in, just below 100 or on 100 on the way to Namek. So he's probably teaching Gohan and Krillin, like what he was doing with King Kai, which is probably the best way to do it. However, this means he has missed out on quite a lot of intense training. So, to make it fair for himself, he probably did a lot of training during the night. Just maybe for an hour or two, whenever he could sneak it in probably some intense gravity. However, at the end of the day, it wasn't enough to make him massively ahead. So I've given Goku a 2.5 times increase, which is not a lot, but it still puts him at 2.9 mil. He was originally at 1.1 mil. So this is where everyone sort of stacks up now. Everyone's power level increase is explained. Let's get into what the group had been doing for the last 2 weeks. For the most part, the group had been training, getting ready to beat King Cold. But when they aren't training, they were actually taking care of any Frieza Force members they could find on the planet. And they also now sort of live on the ship, which Bulma loves. And when they aren't doing any training or, looking for soldiers, they're training some other Namekians just so whenever they leave Planet Namek, at least they've got a good, strong group of Namekians to help defend it. Now, I'm not going to get into what sort of training these warrior Namekians have done, but let's say there's about 6 or 5 of them, and they're all about Zarbon level. They haven't been able to use the gravity chamber because that's been completely occupied the whole time. And when it's not occupied, it's because it's in repair by Bulma. So they're not going to influence the fight between King Cold too much. However, they're just going to be able to help in future. So during the first few days, a certain Prince of All Saiyans had been trying to escape the planet to avoid a fight with Cold. He knew that it's sort of a suicide mission. So anytime he tried to escape near the start, Nail would stop him. But when he overtook Nail, Goku had to stop him, and at that point that was the line for him. He then decided he will show everyone that he can be the legendary Super Saiyan, and that is what he's been aiming for this whole time. Now, he doesn't help train the other warrior Namekians, so during his free time, he mostly spends it with Bulma. Not out of his own choice of, but Bulma wants to learn more about alien tech. Vegeta knows about alien tech. So they've spent a lot of time with each other, and he's been teaching her sort of how to fly Frieza's ship from what he knows. He doesn't know a lot. So these two have actually had like a relationship start a little bit sooner. Now let's leave the group temporarily to jump out into space, where we see a King Cold 2 weeks ago, sort of just floating there, a little annoyed because he's in the middle of space. He sat there playing with his scouter and trying to send out his location so someone will come and pick him up. And after maybe a day or two of floating around, a Frieza ship shows up to come and pick him up. It's Berry Blue. She picked up his scouter location and had come to grab him. He doesn't really explain what happened, but he tells them they need to go to Namek to avenge his son. Berry Blue is surprised to hear Frieza's dead. She isn't upset, it's more shocked than anything else to hear that Frieza, one of the strongest people in the universe, had died. And from the sounds of it, it was by a Saiyan. That's all the information she was able to get from Cold, though. He's been very quiet since then. He's mostly quiet because not only was his son killed, and he was sort of disrespected, the people who he was trying to kill sent him to the other side of the universe. He was so angry. He did something his son would do, and that was play around with his food too much. So he sits down on his throne, and they fly off to Namek. Back with the Dragon team, we cut to Bulma, Goku, Krillin, and Gohan eating lunch, like they normally would during the day. But then King Kai starts communicating to Goku that King Cold is only a few days away, if not a few hours. And when he hears this, he jumps up out of his seat. He has sweat on his face. Yeah, he's grown, but he's nowhere near ready to fight King Cold yet. Goku normally loves the idea of a fight, but this isn't so much a fight anymore. This is more, can Goku keep his son, his best friend, and the planet safe? It's a very nerve-wracking fight. There is a part of him which is excited, but he immediately explains to everyone that they need to, start sorting everything out. He tells Bulma that she needs to get off the planet. After explaining everything that's happening, she offers to take Frieza's ship or Cold's because she knows she can fly them relatively well. However, Goku, in a moment of brilliance for him, says it's probably safer for her to take his ship, as they might shoot down that ship if they see it coming, which sort of stuns everyone, even Gohan to some degree. Now, with that happening, they take Bulma and fly over to the gravity ship, where Vegeta and Nail are currently using it, but they interrupt their training and explain the whole situation with them. with Vegeta almost saying he should go with Bulma to keep her safe, just to sort of hide. However, his pride stops him before he says anything. Yeah, he has tried to escape once or twice, but now the fight's round the corner. He's going to stay here just to keep his pride up. Nail, before Bulma leaves, asks her to take a few Namekians with her to Earth, just to keep the race alive. And they should also take mostly Dragon Clan. So, they can make Dragon Balls again. Dende is offered to go with Bulma. However, he wants to stay. He wants to defend his planet the best way he can. Even if it's just to help heal people, he wants to do that. Vegeta hears the fact the small Namekian can heal and makes a mental note. Now, after getting a small handful of Namekians into Goku's ship, Bulma leaves the planet. Now, this is the point where the group's starting to panic now. They've lost their best way of training, and King Cold's a few hours away, maybe. So, Goku looks over to Vegeta and says these two need to put aside their issues and they need to train. It's the only way that they're ever going to grow strong enough to maybe fight Cold. Vegeta, knowing this will work, because both get Zenkais, fly off, but they're not happy about it. They're not friends yet. The two then disappear from the group to try and close the gap between Cold and them. Now, while these two are off, the other three members of this team decide to start talking of how to take down Cold. Originally, it said that Krillin comes up with the idea to use the warrior Namekians to help, defend them. However, it's sort of a suicide mission for them to go in, so there's no point in them doing it. Now, the group strategizes for a few hours, and honestly, they can't come up with any good idea. So, I'll go through some of the plans they had. Originally, they want to take down Cold how they did Frieza. However, they know he's going to be watching out for Goku, being the one who hit the hardest last time he was here. They think they could maybe suicide themselves to kill him, like Chaozu did, but the group doesn't like that idea. However, it is set as a last resort just in case. They think that they could make a wish on the Earth Dragon Balls to send him to the other side of the planet again. However, they might not be strong enough to, get rid of him, and they don't want to waste a wish that could possibly save them. And these are the best plans they came up with. They came up with hundreds more, and none of them just worked. Now, they decide that they need to get some sleep because it's probably roughly Earth night. Remember, Namekian time is sort of messed. So, Krillin and Gohan try to sleep to the best of their ability, and Nail senses that Goku and Vegeta's power has finally dropped to a very low standard, and flies over to see how they're doing. When he arrives, he can see that both of them are laying on the floor. They're bruised, they're panting heavily, they can barely stand, and decides to pick the two up. To be honest, they're hardly conscious. If Vegeta was sort of semi-conscious, he wouldn't allow this, but, he doesn't really have a say. He takes them back to a Namekian hut just so they can have a night's rest. He gets them some food and tells Dende to heal them. He's a little scared about these two because they haven't eaten all day, and all he knows about the Saiyans so far, they like training, they get stronger if they get hit, and they love food. When Dende goes to heal them, unfortunately he's a bit apprehensive about healing Vegeta. Remember, he did kill a Namekian village, but over time he's sort of warmed up to everyone a little bit. Even though he tried to escape, he's still here, and that sort of counts, and he's probably the best way to defend the planet right now. But he does happily heal Goku, and doesn't think twice about it. Now, I will give the two power levels for these two in a bit, but let's get into the next bit quickly. After everyone had gotten some rest, and they hadn't come up with an idea to beat Cold, they don't really have a lot of options. They decide to sit down and wait for Cold to show up. And when they sense his energies nearby, they all get ready. They can sense a couple of other small energies with him. it's probably just a few Freezer soldiers. So when they land and they can sense all the small energies flying off in different directions, they decide to tell the warrior Namekians to go and deal with, the small power levels. And they decide to fly towards King Cold. As they get closer, Cold picks them up on his scouter and heads towards them as well. When everyone lands, they come face to face with Cold. He isn't happy, but he isn't worried about fighting this group. He just wants to get his son's revenge and he wants to leave. He does take a moment to note everyone's power, and he actually recognises how much stronger everyone's grown. The power levels which do catch his eyes, though, are Vegeta and Goku's. Goku's gone to a power level of 5 mil, and Vegeta's on 4.5 mil. These two have both grown in massive amount because of the training they did yesterday. They just gave each other such a huge Zenkai. They were very close to, death nearly. And after he'd read them all out, he turns the scouter off and gets ready to fight. However, Goku and Vegeta don't want to give him a chance, with Vegeta quickly flying towards Cold to try and take him out by the feet. And when Cold quickly dodges it, it's followed up by Goku jumping over Vegeta to punch him straight in the face, sending King Cold stumbling back a little bit. Goku's energy then flares down from a bright red and calming down to its natural blue. Now this is the start to the fight. He's made Cold bleed. He's shown the fact there is a way to beat him. But this is actually where I'm going to leave it. This is just supposed to be a quick, sort of easy part to do. I know I've left it at a bit of an annoying spot. However, this is going to be a nice, easy way for me to jump into the action next time and just have a really nice action-based part. I hope everyone enjoyed. I'm sorry I've left it at a really bad point. I hope you have a good day or a great night. See you next time.